essays. The first one is from the Bohemian Rhapsody column, and this one was out just a couple weeks ago. And they come out every 2 weeks on Wednesday. This one is called Advice for the Class of 2012, How to Live with Your Mom. Are you a member of the elite group of young people who completed their undergraduate studies last May? If, in addition to passing your classes, you returned your library books and paid your parking tickets, you are now the proud owner of a college diploma. And there it is, tacked between a faded Tony Hawk poster and a stolen street sign on the wall of your childhood bedroom. Like so many of your peers, you have moved back home. The way things are going, this return to the nest may last quite a while. Here are some things to consider as you navigate this tricky situation. You are just 22 years old, but you are big in every way. You are 6'3", and your personality is twice that size. Your mom may be a foot shorter, but her personality has been growing unchecked for decades. The two of you could probably occupy a space about the size of Moldova, but you'll be living in a row home in Baltimore. What makes this situation more alarming is that your bigness, having been spawned by hers, takes similar forms. For example, neither of you sees any need to let other people finish their sentences, as you have already guessed what they're going to say and do not have the patience to see whether you are right. This leads to a conversational stampede effect, as whatever the speaker was actually trying to express is trampled by supposition, confusion, correction, and heated arguments over positions that no one holds, or, just as often, that everyone shares. While both of you have strong opinions, particularly regarding matters you know little about, you also share a certain bipolarity, alternating between joyous, chatty bursts of gaiety and sullen spells of antisocial toothpicking. In your case, these down periods are accompanied by horrible flatulence. In mothers, they are marked by deep, self-pitying sighs. Naturally, both are thin-skinned and defensive. Let these obstacles be an inspiration. You must somehow make this return to indolescence a positive experience for your mom, or she might kick your ass out of the crib, or make living there so unpleasant that you are forced to apply to graduate school. You do have a few things going for you. You have learned many new skills while away at college. You can fry an egg like nobody's business. And after living in that ghetto in New Orleans for 3 years, you are the scourge of the rodent and insect kingdoms. Kill her mice. Demobilize her smoke alarms. Jump her dead battery. Your mom likes your girlfriend. That's a good thing. When the two of them gang up on you about your pot smoking and your unemployment, grin and bear it. Here's your ace in the hole. Your mom is bored and lonely and could use some company. So when the remaining members of your slacker posse from high school come over to smoke weed and listen to rap music in the basement, pause a moment. Everyone should greet Mom politely and inquire about her health. This will smooth your way up to a point, but realize your mother's residence cannot be turned into a crash pad for fledgling bands on tour. Do not try to keep any secret from your mom involving the house. She can perceive even slight differences in the direction of the carpet fibers and is well aware of the orientation of every throw pillow on her bed. So don't think you can conceal the fact that 9 people slept over while she was out of town. If you start acting like you're in high school, your mom will turn into just as much of a bitch as she was back then. While it is important not to make a mess, and to clean up any mess nonetheless made, to avoid finishing the milk or using the last scoop of coffee, there are certain platinum-level chores that actually increase the love. These are grocery shopping, hauling laundry up and down the stairs, and any kind of landscape work. Do these things, and your mom will be so, so happy. She will make you a nice BLT for lunch. Compliment the BLT extensively. Next thing you know, she gives you her credit card and sends you to the liquor store. You're on a roll. Other situations are not as simple. What if you need a dentist appointment? Should you ask your mom to take care of it? If your mom is in a cranky mood, perhaps several unexpected overnight guests have just slunk out of the basement, perhaps she is perimenopausal, perhaps she has just received her credit card bill, she will tell you, you are 22 years old, make your own goddamn dentist appointment. Then, feeling guilty, she will go ahead and try to make the appointment. The dentist is booked for months in advance and say they will call when they have a cancellation. Now the dentist starts calling the house every other day. You are never around. Your mom gets frustrated and books an appointment for you. Turns out it conflicts with band practice, and the dentist calls your mom when you do not show up. World War III. Now, if you don't want to end up sleeping on your friend Ryan's couch, get hold of yourself. Call her back. Say kindly and softly, "Mom, I think we got off on the wrong foot. I'm sorry I put you in that position. Give me the dentist's number and I will take care of it." Taken off guard, your mom will just about nominate you for the Nobel Peace Prize. She will be so impressed. The BLTs are flowing. The beer is upgraded from Natty Boh to Dogfish Head. Your mom is a sucker for your charms. Of course, she is your mom. Soon it will be time for your own band to go on tour. You should set up a Kickstarter site to raise money for this. Your mom will eagerly publicize the project to everyone she knows. You want to go on Kickstarter.com and look for 27 lights? She loves your music. She loves that you are a creative artist. She loves you are trying to make some money, even if you have replaced traditional employment with hitting up friends and relatives. And imagine how much your mom will miss you by the time you get back from your tour. I want to thank Greg for having me, and it was really great to get to read with Justin and Joe and Jennifer, and I wish my name started with J, like theirs, so I could be part of it. My old books are next door, and I have a new book coming out next July. This is the cover, yay! It's called Highs in the Low 50s, How I Stumbled Through the Joys of Single Living. And it covers the period from my implosion of my marriage, my kids going to college, and all these things happening to me when I was living in rural Pennsylvania, and I moved to Baltimore in February 2009, ready to put my life back together. And this is one of the early pieces in the book called Desperate Housewives of Roland Park. I was hanging pots in the kitchen when an attractive, loose-limbed Latino man in a ski cap came out of the basement with a bucket. The moment he saw me, an expression of interest crossed his face. I stepped aside to let him get to the sink, and his paint-spattered flannel shirt brushed my arm. Our eyes met. His were liquid black. "Hola," I said. "¿Cómo te llamas?" "Humberto," he said. "Y tú?" He gave me another long look as he shut the basement door. He had a way of gazing at me as if I were Aphrodite. By the time I moved to Baltimore, it had been over a year since my husband and I split up, and the only man I'd been with since was my husband. But now he'd become serious with someone else while I had no idea how to proceed. I'd been in back-to-back relationships since I was 25 years ago. So what was I supposed to do? Go online? Hit the bars? Start cruising the Central Americans in the basement? Adjust to a life without passion? There were only one of these choices that seemed out of the question. The next week I was sitting at my desk when I felt someone standing behind me. "¿Qué haces?" said Humberto. "Trabajo," I replied. I haltingly explained in Spanish that I am a writer. But there was something about the way that he looked at my books that suggested it wasn't just that he didn't read English. It was that he didn't read. "¿Tú no lees?" He shrugged. "No mucho." I pulled down a book whose cover shows a picture of my first husband and me with our little sons. I explained to him that Tony had died of AIDS. His eyes widened. "A long time ago," I said, 16 years. He shook his head sympathetically and touched my cheek. One day, I decided to use my ex's Amazon Prime account so I could get free shipping. Well, this turned out to be the last time I did that because I saw he had ordered a copy of the Kama Sutra for his new girlfriend. When right then, Humberto appeared behind me, I got up and turned face to face him. He put his arms around me, and I leaned into his chest. It stopped there, but went on like this for weeks. Hugs, looks, confusing conversations. One day, he brought me a foil package of homemade tortillas. When Jane got home from school, I rolled one up for her with jam. "Humberto brought these for us," I told her gaily. "Isn't that so sweet?" "Humberto," she said. "Is he your boyfriend?" "No, silly, of course not." Well, then why are you always talking about him, she said. Well, Miss Third Grader, good question. My basement was almost done. The crew began working on other jobs. One day, Umberto pulled out his cell phone and asked for my number. I couldn't think why, since we could barely talk to each other, but he called me often. He said, "Hola?" I said, "Hola?" Then he would say something else, which I had to ask him to repeat 200 times until we gave up. Though we never kissed, unfortunate progress was made on other fronts. He would run his hands over my body, but had a way of pinching whatever he got hold of that I couldn't stand. It wasn't your usual two-fingered pinch, but a whole hand squeeze, as if he were juicing a particularly resistant citrus fruit. Finally, I looked up in Google Translate for pinch. No me peliscas, I told him. Peliscas? I showed him, he laughed, and he started doing it again. I was beginning to see. We just weren't right for each other. But to put it in Pokemon terms, the ability of looking must be stronger than the ability of pinching, because looking beat pinching in this Poke battle. When Umberto called one day to say he wanted to see me, I drove right over to the barrio and picked him up. He looked as nervous as I was, waiting for me in the rain without an umbrella, in an iron shirt, creased pants, and shiny shoes. Okay, let's do this, I thought. I had to have sex as a phase in my recovery, and this was my chance. Back at my house, we sat on the couch and had a glass of wine. With Google Translate running harder than a shredder at Goldman Sachs, I learned many new things about Umberto, such as he had 3 kids at home in El Salvador whom he hadn't seen for 4 years. This was not a sexy conversation. Gloomily, we went up to the bedroom. He took off his shoes, lay on the quilt, and told me he had forgotten his condoms. What? He muttered something about my husband dying of AIDS. Okay, I get it now. I thought of explaining that I don't have HIV, but he looked as if he were about to cry. What's wrong? I asked. Es mi hermano, he said, and the tears rolled. He told me that his brother was trying to sneak into the United States, but was stuck in Mexico for lack of funds. It was very dangerous. Could I please give him some money? How much is it, I wondered. He told me. At this point, my eyes also filled with tears, and I leapt off the bed. I mean, I felt bad about his brother, and I knew I wasn't Aphrodite, but this was pretty far to fall. Afterwards, we sat on my front porch and had as serious a conversation as we could manage. I tried to say that the inequality of our situations made it difficult for us to understand each other. I knew he hadn't meant to hurt me, but he had, and I didn't have $3,000 to spare anyway. Finally, I told him, you should never ask a woman for money in her bedroom. It just isn't done. I gave him 2 20s towards the cause, and I took him home. Then I ruefully closed Google Translate and signed up for Match.com, where I might not find love, but I would at least find people in my age group who spoke English.